Erev Tov, everyone. Erev Tov. Welcome. It is Monday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the House of Seven Beggars, therefore it must be Zeyde Story Corner. That's right. Zeyde Story Corner. Okay, so we left off last week. Another cliffhanger. Yep, another cliffhanger. We were reading the story of about the disciple who went astray, and yeah, it's we kind of had some rainy weather here lately. Yeah, lots of rain. About 5 days. Yeah, about 5 days of rain. Pretty steady. Today we didn't have any rain, so you saw a good day. Yeah. Was a good day today. So let us see who we have in the chat room here. So we have Donald, we have Dorothy, we have Miriam, Kelsey Lynn, Veronica, Crystal, who is stuck at the grocery store. Well, at least you won't be hungry. That's true. She won't be hungry. Okay, and Shoshi, and I imagine Shlomo, and Rabbi Shlomo, and I assume Huva. Okay, so anything special going on? Just getting ready for the high holy days. Yeah, that's right. They are coming upon us quickly, and we will be getting the schedule for the high holy day services up probably later this week, so that everybody can make their plans. So, well, without further ado, we should probably get to our stories. Yes, let's do that. Seeing it's my show. Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, it is your show, so I guess we probably should be getting on to this. So let me get you over on your camera.
Let's all go to
That's
the
the wrong
lobby.
camera. Yeah, I kind of figured that out. Oh, we have a glitch in the camera for some reason. I don't know what's going on. I am not in the picture. Yeah, I see that. You're not in the picture. I don't know what's going on here. Wow, that was the wrong one to do. Let's see. Let's go back to this one. And, interesting. We seem to be having a little camera problem tonight, so let's see if we can fix that. Let's see. See if maybe we can get it to reset. Yeah. Hopefully, maybe we can get it to reset, and so at least we got one camera working. Well, that's always good. Yeah, it is. Okay, so let's try plugging it into a different slot. Let's see. Maybe that one will do. Let's see what happens. Okay. And we're waiting. And we're waiting. And so let's see what happens now. Okay. Anything at all. Anything at all. And nothing. Oh, that's because we got the other camera on. Well, turn it off then. Okay, I'm turning it off. There we go. And it's still showing the picture from earlier when I was actually setting things up like 2 hours ago. Okay, well, I don't know what to tell you about that one. Let's see. If we go over here and okay, just bear with us, folks. We're gonna work it out here. See if we can see if we can figure out something here. Let's see. That now we know that one is working. Okay, so let's try and get back on that one, and there we are. Okay. So let us try. There I am. Oh boy, we fixed it. At least for the time being. At least we'll know next time what to do if this happens again. Well, that's true. If that's, you know, it's a happy mistake. Okay, yeah, good. It's a happy mistake. Okay, so let's go. Let's go with the happy mistake, and let's go ahead and get on with our story then. Yes, we probably should. We've wasted enough time as it is already. Okay, so as we said, this story we started last week. It is called The Disciple Who Went Astray. So, yeah, we didn't get very far in the story. So I think we start over from the beginning and we tell the whole story, okay? Is that okay? Is that okay with you, Donald? We shall see. Okay. So, we start out. A former disciple paid a visit once to the Rebbe of Ostrovets. The Rebbe observed that the young man had changed in some way. Something was amiss with him. The Rebbe asked him what had gone wrong. The disciple explained that while he was studying for his rabbinical examination, he had begun to read secular books, and that they so absorbed him that he was neglecting his studies. Oh my goodness, what a terrible thing to happen, huh? The Rebbe inquired, "Have you read one of those books today?" "Yes, sir," the disciple replied. The Rebbe said, "Tell me what story the story was about." The disciple said, "Why should I trouble the Rebbe with an old wives' tale?" But the Rebbe insisted, and so the disciple told the story. It was about a man on a journey who was terribly hungry because he had nothing to eat. Okay, something that Crystal doesn't have to worry about right now, huh? He found a lump of iron that was as round as a head and covered with mud. He picked it up, but he couldn't eat it. He went on his way and came upon a man who was carrying a horse's head. Now, what in the world would somebody be doing walking around carrying a horse's head? I don't know. I guess we shall see, huh? Okay, so he's walking around carrying a horse's head. For whatever reason, he decided to do that. Okay. And of course, the head could be eaten. So he said, "Give me the horse's head because I'm dying of hunger." The other man said, "Let me have the lump of iron, and I'll give you the horse's head." And so the hungry man gave him the lump of iron and got the horse's head to eat. As if anybody really wants to eat a horse's head. But then again, that's the story. Okay, so the other man took the lump of iron home with him. After he scraped the mud off, he discovered that it was a lump of gold. He said, if the other fellow had known that it was a lump of gold, he never would have made the trade. The Rebbe said, "Do you know who the story is meant for? It's meant for you. You had a golden head." Ooh, what a great lesson in that story, huh? Okay. So, I see that YouTube is having some issues, but we seem to be back on. So, boy, it's going to be one of those nights, folks. We shall see what happens. Okay. So, anyway, we go on. This story, it's a very famous story actually, is called The Rebbe's Melody. The Hasidim held that deep secrets of the Torah could be found hidden in melodies. According to the teller of this tale, it was said of Reb Shneur Zalman, the founder of the Chabad Hasidim, that before he sat down to his studies, he would sing the following song. Now, I'm going to read the song because I'm not really that good at singing it, okay? So, all the angels, all the seraphim, ask who God may be. And woe, what can we reply? No thought can be attached to him. All the peoples, every nation, ask where God may be. And woe, what can we reply? No place is without him. Now, there is a third stanza, said the storyteller, but he could not remember it. Tradition has it that Reb Shneur Zalman wrote 10 songs to accompany each of the 10 mystical sephirah, the divine emanations in which God's creative power unfolds, according to the Kabbalistic doctrine. One of those melodies, widespread among the Hasidim, was known as the Rebbe's Melody, and about it, the storyteller told the following tale. One Shabbat day, Reb Shneur Zalman was explicating Torah to his disciples. As he spoke, he noticed an old man, a stranger to him, sitting tensely opposite him. The man was staring into the Rebbe's eyes and seemed to be trying desperately to understand what was being said. But it was clear from the grieving look on his face that he could not. When the Rebbe retired to his study, he sent for the stranger and asked him if he had comprehended the day's discourse. The man wept as he replied that he had been unable to follow the holy words. He explained that he had been orphaned at an early age, and his mother had been too poor to keep him in primary school because she needed help in supporting the family. So he became a working man, and later, when he married, he did not have time for Torah study because he was supporting his wife and children. All I can do, he said, is to recite the Tehillim, the Psalms. And though I recite them daily, I don't understand them too well. Now, in my later years, with my children grown and out of the house, I find myself drawn to the study of Torah. But the scholars in the synagogue laugh at me. And so, having heard that you befriend all men, I've come to sit at your table to study along with the others. It's made me very happy to be a man among men at last. But when you begin to explain the Torah, I can't understand what you're saying. My happiness curdles, and my joy turns to grief. Rebbe, holy Rebbe, tell me how to become worthy of study with you. What must I do to understand the Torah? The man bowed his head, and the tears streamed down his face. Reb Shmuel Zalman put his hands on the man's shoulders and said gently, "No more tears today. It is the Sabbath, and one may not be sad on the Sabbath. What you heard me explain today was the Baal Shem Tov's concept of Hasidim. And if you haven't understood what I said with words, I'll help you by singing a song. Listen, for all the Baal Shem's thought is hidden in it." And here Reb Shmuel Zalman began to sing a sweet melody, one phrase after another. The man listened as if he had turned into a pillar of attention. Not so much as an eyebrow moved. And the more the Rebbe sang, the brighter was the glow on the man's face. He felt his soul being transported. A warm flush of happiness surged through him. When the Rebbe finished singing, the man cried out, "Rebbe, I understand, I understand. Ah, Rebbe, I feel worthy now to be your student." And from then on, it was the Rebbe's custom to sing that melody at the conclusion of his discourses as a way of clarifying them, just in case there was someone at his table who could not fully understand his words. And the melody is known to this day as the Rebbe's melody. Now you go and you look that up, because you can find it, and there's very, very beautiful songs, people who sing this song very beautifully. It's a wonderful one. Okay. So, this one is called "Don't Go Into the Mud in the First Place." Boy, how many times did my mother used to tell me that, huh? I come in all dirty from playing, and she said, "Don't go into the mud in the first place and you won't get dirty." But kids have to be kids. They have to get dirty. So, anyway, so the story is called "Don't Go Into the Mud in the First Place." Okay, so we begin. When the Rebbe of Raditz was still quite a young man, he came into his shtibel one day and found a couple of Hasidim engaged in an intense scholarly debate which they could not bring to a conclusion. Because the Rebbe of Radizin was famous for his scholarship, they asked him to decide between them. Instead, he told the following tale. Once a group of wagon drivers sat talking at an inn. As often happens, the oldest of them presided over the conversation. And now he pointed at the young man who asked, "Who is that young fellow?" "He's a young wagon driver," was the reply. "Come here, my son," the old driver said. "Tell me, what do you do when your horses draw your wagon into the mud?" "You put a lever under the rear axle and lift the wagon out," replied the young man. "Oh, clever lad," said the oldest driver. "But what happens if the lever sinks into the mud as well?" "Well, you take a beam and put it under the lever." "Oh, clever. Oh, very clever. And you call yourself a wagon driver?" "If you've got a lever and a beam, there's no problem. But what if you don't have either?" The young man stood silent, unable to reply. "I'll tell you what," the old wagon driver said. "A good driver doesn't let his horses pull the wagon into the mud in the first place." And with that, the Radzin Rebbe showed the two scholars how deeply they had sunk into the mire. Ah, interesting, huh? Okay. Okay, so this next story, oh, I love this next story. It has one of my favorite rabbis in there, the Rebbe of Keruv. It's called The Missed Moment of Redemption. The Rebbe of Keruv, the holy Rebbe of Keruv, was one of the greatest of the Hungarian Rebbes. See, I'm from Hungary. I know this. On the anniversary of his death, Jews were granted the privilege of traveling to Keruv by train free of charge. All they had to do was show a certificate from the city council. It happened that once that the Rebbe of Viznitz sent 3 of his disciples to Keruv for the Passover holiday. When they arrived and made their way to the Rebbe's house, they found him outside chopping wood. They greeted him in the usual fashion, and the Rebbe honored them with the task of carrying the wood. That, he said, would make them worthy of sharing his Passover meal. They carried in the wood and waited impatiently for the holiday celebration to begin. Certainly, the Viznitz Rebbe would not have sent them such a great distance on Pesach evening for nothing. They sat around the Seder table expectantly. The Rebbe, smiling the same sort of enigmatic smile as he had bidden them carry the wood, sat down with them. Then a Gentile boy and girl arrived and helped themselves to the Passover wine, after which all three, the Rebbe, the boy, the girl, danced a cheerful dance, they freilich, together. They danced off into another room while the Viznit's disciples looked at each other in dismay. What had they fallen into? It must be that we have stumbled into the company of the Satan. May the merciful one help us to survive this holiday. The Rebbe came back and looked pleased, inquired, "Well, how do you like them? Not a bad couple, eh? Do you approve of their betrothal?" When they replied that they had not come to arrange any betrothals, the Rebbe became disconsolate, and the service proceeded in silence. After the first days of Pesach, the disciples traveled home discontentedly. It goes without saying that they were also somewhat irritated with the Rebbe of Viznitz, who they promptly reported the disturbing Passover they had had. "Ah," groaned the Rebbe, "fools that you are! Had you but approved of the betrothal, then the redemption would have come, because the two Gentiles, the boy and the girl, were actually the angels Michael and Gabriel." Oh boy, have to be careful, huh? Okay, so we do this story. This is a good story. Let's see. I think because this is a little bit of a longer story, I think we are going to take our break now. And then when we return, we will go into the Merkava Rebbe gets even with a stingy woman. Okay, so we take our break, and we be back in 6.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
And now we are back just as promised. Okay, so we continue on with our stories. Let's see, Ariella and Zev have joined us. Good to see you. Okay, so as I said, this story is called The Mekarev Rebbe Gets Even with a Stingy Woman. Okay, so, well, let me tell you a story that I myself heard some time ago from the old Rebbe of Mekarev. May he rest in peace. When it was time for me to do my military service, my mother, may she rest in peace, who was a follower of the Keruv Rebbe, begged me to go with her to visit him. Well, at first I was reluctant, but finally she persuaded me. We came to the Rebbe's house and spent the Sabbath there. On Sabbath night, the Rebbe presided over a large and densely packed company. I pushed my way through the crowd, hoping to hear a few of the Rebbe's good words. And the Rebbe was telling some sort of tale. What it was illustrating, I can't remember. But what I'm going to tell you is word for word what I heard the Rebbe say. Gentlemen, said the Rebbe of Keruv, listen. This happened a few years ago. My shamas and I were traveling and came to a nearby village. Now, the Rebbe gave the name of the village, but I can't remember it just now. We stayed at an inn for a few days. The innkeeper's wife, a mother of 6 daughters, asked me to pray that she might bear a son. If she had a son, there would be someone to say Kaddish, the mourner's prayer, for her and her husband when the time came. Well, I agreed to pray for her, and she promised me 18 rubles in payment for my help. A year went by, and Tsar Nicholas issued an edict which you may remember forbade Jews to travel. A royal decree. Well, several years went by, and of course we did not travel. But then the decree was canceled. During the period when we were not permitted to travel, I learned that the innkeeper's wife had, with God's help, given birth to a son. So I sent my shamas to the village to ask for the 18 rubles. The innkeeper's wife carried on at a great rate and absolutely refused to pay. These are hard times, she said. We can't pay. I'll send the money when things get better. Well, what can you do? Curse her? After all, she's the mother of small children. Curse the child? Why? What have I got against the child? So, I prayed that God would send her twins the following year. And the good Lord complied. Miraculously, she gave birth to twins. Not a month later, the innkeeper's wife hurried in to see me, crying, Rebbe, be good enough to pray for me. Ask the good Lord not to send me any more sons or daughters either. Here, she said, with tears in her eyes, here are the 18 rubles I promised you. Take them. And that's the sort of holy men there were in those times. Where do you find they're like today? Okay. This story is called The Happy Pair and the Baal Shem Tov. It's another one about a stingy tavern keeper, eh? It's a good one, too. Okay. A stingy tavern keeper who leased his tavern and a mill from a local nobleman, had a manservant and a maidservant who were in love. The young couple could not marry because they did not have enough money. The maidservant had 50 rubles, all told, and the manservant had 50 rubles, all told. Each of them was saving the money for when they would marry. In a nearby village, there was a Jew who could not pay the rent on his house, and the nobleman decreed that he must hang. God forbid. The man appealed to the Jewish community, crying, "Will you see me hanged for 50 rubles?" No one came forward to save him. However, and the day came when the poor man was to die. Minutes before the hanging, the two servants cried, "Stop! We'll pay the 50 rubles." And thus the man was rescued from certain death. Someone went to the Baal Shem Tov and told him the story. But he said, "I know about it. I'm going to see them tomorrow." The next day, the Baal Shem Tov arrived in the village and had himself driven to the tavern where the two servants worked. When he had eaten and drunk, the Baal Shem turned to the young couple and asked them why they were still unmarried. The maidservant said, "We don't have enough money." And she started to tell him the story of the 50 rubles. The Baal Shem said, "I know all about that. But you still want to marry this young man?" She replied, "What's the good of saying I want to if we haven't got the wherewithal?" The Baal Shem Tov said, "I'll see to it that you're married." And he took them into town and saw to it that they were properly clothed, and then bought them whatever else they might need for their marriage. At the wedding, the Baal Shem asked the stingy tavern keeper what he would give the couple as a wedding present. The tavern keeper replied, "I can't give them anything. I have children of my own, and who knows what will happen to me later in life. I can't deprive my children of their inheritance." "In that case," said the Baal Shem to the tavern keeper, "I'll give them wedding presents in your name. I'll give them the tavern and the mill." Now, this remark struck the man as so far-fetched that he simply ignored it and walked off. Not a smart thing to do, huh? After their wedding, the Baal Shem Tov invited the couple to come home with him. He told them to take a good deal of food with them. Then, just as they started out, the Baal Shem Tov suddenly disappeared, and the young couple were left alone in the countryside. Well, they walked and walked until they were in the middle of the forest. There, they heard someone groaning. They went closer, and the groaning got louder and louder. Suddenly they came on a pit, and there in the pit lay a man and a horse. When the man saw the couple, he said very weakly, "I'm hungry." So the couple threw food down to him until he had eaten his fill and grown strong enough to climb out of the pit. Well, how was it that the man and the horse happened to be there? As it turned out, he was the son of the nobleman who owned the tavern run by the stingy tavern keeper. The nobleman's son had been missing for 3 days and was being sought everywhere. Well, maybe not everywhere, because if they looked everywhere, they would have found him. But, hey, he had been on his way someplace when he fell into the pit. And if it had not been for the young couple, he would certainly have died of hunger. Well, they all rode together to the nobleman's house, and what a celebration there was! The nobleman told the whole story of how the couple had rescued him from death. In the evening there was a great banquet, and the young nobleman's mother called to the assembled company, "Let me have your advice. What shall I give the couple who rescued my son from death?" All the people shouted, "Let them have the mill and the tavern." And so, the stingy tavern keeper and his family had to leave their home and become beggars, while the former servants took over the tavern and the mill and became very rich. But that's not the end of the story. The Baal Shem Tov wanted to test whether they still had any memory of their earlier lives as poor folk. So he came to their village, but before entering their house, he laid down in a puddle and got himself thoroughly dirty. When he came into the house, a servant girl cried, "Get out of here! Just look at you! What a filthy mess you are!" The former maidservant, hearing this, came running in and scolded the servant girl and asked the man to come inside and brought him food at once. Then the disguised Baal Shem said that he wanted the place to sleep, and the former maidservant prepared a bed for him. The Baal Shem said, "I'm not going to undress. I'm going to get into bed wrapped in my coat." "Well," said the innkeeper's wife, "never mind. Just go to sleep. If the sheets get dirty, we'll wash them." The next morning, after the Baal Shem Tov had eaten the breakfast the innkeeper's wife had served him, he told the couple who he was. He blessed them with happiness and abundance, then disappeared. That's what sort of thing the Baal Shem Tov used to do. Isn't that a lovely story, huh? Okay. I think we have time for one more. I don't know. Maybe a cliffhanger? Maybe not. We shall see. Okay. This one is called the Fleet-Footed Tomashev Rebbe. The butchers of Tomashev were traveling homeward on a certain Friday evening. When night began to fall, they calculated how much further they still had to go. And they realized that even if they had horses fleeter than winged serpents, they would not arrive until after the lighting of Shabbat candles. As they rode through the forest some 7 kilometers from Tomashev, they saw the Rebbe of Tomashev making his way home. They introduced themselves and offered him a seat in their wagon. But he refused, saying, go on, I won't ride with you, but you'd better go swiftly, or you'll not arrive until after the blessing of the Shabbos candles." The butchers were loath to leave him there, knowing that if it became known in Tomashev that they had left the Rebbe in the woods, the people might be angry enough to stone them. But the Rebbe stubbornly refused to ride with them. The butchers, seeing that nothing they said made any impression, had to drive off without him. They had traveled hardly half a kilometer when remorse overwhelmed them. So they rode back to the Rebbe and tried once again to persuade him. But all for nothing. And this time they drove off as fast as they could, meaning to report in Tomashev that they had seen the Rebbe in the woods. Perhaps someone else would ride out to get him. When they reached Tomashev, they found the Sabbath candles burning everywhere. And when they neared the Rebbe's house, they were stunned by the sight of him pacing back and forth on his footbridge. How do you think that happened, huh? Okay, maybe one more short one tonight, okay? The right order is important. There was a certain rich man named Shimon Gulzabab, whose children all died. Once, Reb Shmelke, do you know who Reb Shmelke is? Reb Shmelke is the founder of Nikolsburg. He's the first Nikolsburg Rebbe. He's the great-grandfather of the current Rebbe of Nikolsburg. Anyway, Reb Shmelke came to Rosmoldovia. There he stayed in the home of the Goldevas, father-in-law. Goldevas too came there for Shabbat. Reb Shmelke received Goldevas' petition and asked him, "What is it you want?" "Rebbe, I'd like to have children that will live." "I understand. The problem is this. You've committed a sin. You married the younger of 2 sisters before the older one was married, and that is forbidden. But you can resolve the problem. Let your wife's older sister move in with the 2 of you. Give her a dowry and see that she gets married. Then you'll have children that survive." The rich man did everything the Rebbe told him, and his wife gave birth to children that lived. And that, my dear friends, is what we are going to say. I don't know. We've got about 5 more minutes. Okay, maybe this is another short one. We do another short one, huh? How's that sound to you? Okay, this is a good one too. This is Reb Chaim Erbach rak se cradle on Yom Kippur. Some 80 years ago, Reb Chaim Erbach was the Rebbe of Linsets. People said he used to rise at midnight to study and pray with Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet. There was also a story told about him. Once on Yom Kippur Eve, as he was on his way to recite Kol Nidrei prayer, he heard weeping from a house on a Jewish street. He went into the house and found a child crying while a girl slept nearby. The Rebbe sat down and rocked the cradle. Meanwhile, at the synagogue, people were getting worried because the Rebbe had not been seen. The shamas ran out to look for him. After hunting for a long while, he finally found him beside the child whom the Rebbe had rocked to sleep. It was from that time the Rebbe forbade women to go to Kol Nidrei. Okay, so we are at the end of our time together. I hope you enjoyed the stories. I hope you will be with us next week when we continue our studies. Don't forget the Torah study with the Rabbi A and the Reb Reuben, which is Wednesday, and of course Shabbat services as usual. Until the next time, my dear friends, we say Laila Tov.